Calling Hamas a terrorist organization is ridiculous, racist, and plays into genocidal propaganda that is flooding our media and that we should be doing everything possible to combat.
I support the right of Palestinians to resist occupation, including through Hamas, the armed wing of the unified Palestinian resistance.
That was in Oakland during last night's city council meeting. And it's really hard to overstate. And I'm going to try to be calm, open-minded, understanding, and not use the rhetoric that I really want to use, like the fact that I can't overstate how much I despise these people and how self-indulgent and stupid they are. But I'm also not an idiot, and I don't fall for propaganda by a group of people who carried out some of the most vicious atrocities against innocent civilians in Israel. I don't need to carry water for them, and I don't need to fall for their stupid propaganda. But unfortunately, there's some fragment of the left, and I'm hoping it is a tiny, tiny fragment of the left, that's stupid enough to look at propaganda videos where Hamas is releasing the hostages. And gee, I don't know, some of the family members of the hostages that are being released might still be held captive by Hamas. And so when you see the hostages who are being released wave to the cameras and awkwardly look like they're happy about the situation, could it be that they're concerned about their family members who are still held captive by Hamas, which, by the way, also committed international war crimes by, kidnapping innocent Israeli civilians? So look, I want to break down the arguments made by these individuals who were incensed over the fact that the measure that was voted on by the city council, which did in fact pass. They did decide to pass a measure calling for Israel to engage in a ceasefire. They did that, okay? But they also wanted to include a provision that made it abundantly clear that they condemn Hamas, which should be an easy thing to do, but apparently it's not easy to do. It's not easy to do. So I'm gonna break down the dumb arguments that were made by these leftists who think they're revolutionaries because they support Hamas and they think that's somehow representative of freedom fighters in Palestine. Break them down, debunk them, and then I'm gonna tell you how this is actually incredibly counterproductive for anyone who actually gives a damn about the well-being, freedom, and statehood of the Palestinian people. Let's go to the first video.
There's not been beheadings of babies and rapings. Israel murdered their own people on October 7th.
There's been a lot of atrocity propaganda ranging from claims of beheaded babies to mass rape.
Arguing that Hamas didn't carry out atrocities on October 7th is both ignorant and shameful. It's also indecent and incredibly cruel to the victims on October 7th. And then you have morons like the ones you just heard from engaging in it publicly during a city council meeting because they somehow think it is helpful to deny the atrocities that Hamas carried out. I don't know how many examples we need to provide, but one of the videos that I can't get out of my mind. But what's so disgusting to me is we've all seen the video of an Israeli woman being forced into a truck by members of Hamas. She's wearing pants, but her backside is absolutely covered in blood. Gee, I wonder what happened to her. Why would she have all this blood on her backside? Oh, but there's no evidence of rapes that occurred during these atrocities. It's true that Israel hasn't released evidence of decapitated babies. That doesn't mean that it's already proven that babies weren't decapitated. We don't know, we really don't know. But I would just venture to say that maybe, just maybe, there's the possibility that the family members of those children wouldn't want photos of those babies being decapitated floating around all over on the internet. I don't know, that I could be wrong. I could be wrong. They might find that incredibly cruel. They might be re-traumatized by that over and over again. Maybe that's why they didn't want that out. But again, I don't know. I agree, we haven't seen those photos. We haven't seen that evidence. But I've seen enough evidence of the atrocities that Hamas committed to acknowledge that they committed atrocities. And I don't need to provide cover for them to also simultaneously find the behavior and the military actions of the IDF abhorrent and in violation of international laws. You can hold those two thoughts at the same time. I know it's crazy. If we're disgusted by the crisis actor conspiracy theories coming from the pro-Israeli side, pro-Israel side, I should say, we should be just as disgusted when we hear the type of arguments, those same types of arguments being made of Hamas. By the way, again, I want to reiterate, taking civilians as hostages breaks international laws. It's a war crime. Now, Human Rights Watch also verified some of the videos that came out featuring Hamas carrying out these atrocities. So I'm going to give you some descriptions here. They're hard to hear about. I mean, I personally find them incredibly hard to hear about, read about. So I want to give fair warning to people who still have, a soul, the ability to feel anything when it comes to human lives. But here are, again, this is Human Rights Watch. Here are the verified descriptions of the videos that Human Rights Watch has looked at. In one verified video, dashcam footage taken at 7:55 a.m. shows 7 gunmen, including several yelling in Arabic, kick a shirtless man in front of a bomb shelter connected to the Reim Junction bus stop, just a few minutes walk south of the location of the Supernova Music Festival. One gunman shouts in Arabic, "Guys, inside here." And they appear to argue briefly before another gunman throws an object into the shelter. A man dressed in civilian clothes dashes out. The gunmen yell, "Take aim," and shoot at him from behind as he tries to flee. As they are shooting, there is an explosion inside the shelter. The video ends, and it is unclear whether either man survived. That also reminds me of one of the other verified incidents that happened on October 7th. And this is one of the incidents that I also have a hard time forgetting about. So a father runs into a shelter where his 2 sons are. A Hamas militant throws a grenade into that shelter. The father dies. Somehow, miraculously, the 2 young sons survive. They start wailing and crying. One of them says, why couldn't we die? Why are we still alive? And the other, his brother, looks at him and says, we're gonna die, aren't we? And as this is happening, a Hamas militant opens their fridge and proceeds to enjoy a Coke, a soda. In a second verified video, security camera footage filmed at 8:43 a.m., a man in civilian clothing who appears to be fatally shot lies bleeding on the ground in front of a kibbutz. A group of gunmen congregate in front of a structure close to the dead man, and one throws an object toward it. Within 15 seconds, there is an explosion inside the structure, and a gunman drags out a person, shoots them at close range, and beats them with the butt of his rifle as the other gunmen look on. The New York Times also reports of just how indiscriminate Hamas's atrocities were. Obviously, they targeted everyone. It wasn't just IDF soldiers. They also went after civilians, as is very clear here, but they also went after other foreigners. Those killed in Israel on October 7th also include foreigners and dual nationals. At least 31 US citizens and 39 French citizens were killed during the attacks, authorities in both countries have said. Other victims include at least 34 Thai nationals. Asian workers were a common sight in the farms near Israel's border with Gaza. So do these people's lives matter, or are they martyrs in the quest for freedom for the Palestinians? And did they get that? Or are we seeing Palestinians live better lives today after Hamas carried out the atrocities it carried out? Of course not. It has made the possibility of an actual 2-state solution at this point pretty impossible. And for anyone who thought that a 1-state solution, I get it. Look, I have empathy for people who genuinely think that that can be accomplished. A 1-state solution, a democratic country where Israelis and Palestinians live side by side, coexist, everything is fine. It's not gonna happen. There's too much animosity, there's too much history. Realistically, a 2-state solution made a lot more sense to me. We're further from that than I think we've ever been. The argument, I wanna go to the next video. Let's watch.
As an Arab, asking with this context to condemn Hamas is very anti-Arab racist.
Calling Hamas a terrorist organization is ridiculous, racist, and plays into genocidal propaganda that is flooding our media and that we should be doing everything possible to combat.
Did anyone else notice that those who oppose this resolution are old white supremacists?
Weaponizing racism, sexism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, I'm sick of it, okay? Asking people to condemn Hamas is not racist. It's just not. It is a lazy and boring argument.